There's a name and there's a face that every single one of us that's watching this video should remember. 61-year-old man, grandfather, should really be right now, if he's retired, enjoying time with his grandchildren, enjoying time with his family. This man was a family man, Peter Lynch. And back in August, after the brutal, monstrous murder of those three little angels, Peter Lynch decided to go to a protest. And the protest, by all accounts, got a little bit out of hand. Was Peter Lynch violent? Was he a violent man? Was he violent at the protest? The answer is no. You know what Peter Lynch did? Peter Lynch shouted some hurty words at police officers. And on the 22nd of August, Peter Lynch was sent to prison for over 2 years. I want you to think about that, for shouting at police officers. And I think we've always, whenever someone's sentenced now, we've always got to refer back to one man, Hugh Edwards. Hugh Edwards, a convicted paedophile, a nonce, a total wrong'un, in a position of power where he could abuse that power. Hugh Edwards gets a suspended sentence for having some of the most disgusting, filthy child pornography in his possession. A suspended sentence. Peter Lynch shouts at police officers because he's a bit upset about the murder of little girls. He's a little bit upset by that, as we all were. He goes to a protest. There's a photograph of him. I'll put the photograph in here. There's a photograph of him standing holding a placard that he made himself. As far as I could see, there was nothing racist on that placard whatsoever. 2.5 years in prison. But that's not the end of the story, as you all know, if you've been following the news. And I want to say something to Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer, you have blood on your hands. Your hands are dripping in a man's blood today. Because your pressure on the judicial system to get results, to get all these wrong-uns, these far-right lunatics banged away, that man, we don't know the full story, we don't know why it happened, but it appears that man has taken his life while in prison for shouting at police officers. A death sentence for shouting at police officers in 21st century Britain. And you can say what you want, you can say I'm exaggerating, you can say I'm overly emotional about it. This guy was a grandfather. This is what the media say. A grandfather and a family man. That's what the media published about him, who shouted at police officers. He didn't throw a brick, he didn't throw a bottle. But now, shouting at police officers can land you up in a prison cell, and within months you're dead. And this is on Keir Starmer, and this is on Keir Starmer's government, and this is on the judiciary, and this is on the CPS, and this is on two-tier everything and two-tier Keir. Then, of course, we think about the lady that was sent to prison last week. What was it, 31 months? For posting on social media. And we think about our own Tommy. Came back yesterday. Knowing that he's facing a prison sentence. And what's Tommy going to be sent to prison for? Well, of course, the media will say contempt of court. But the reality is, he's gone to prison for making a documentary. He's going to prison for interviewing people. Now, the people were interviewed covertly. If you're interviewed covertly, it's far more likely that you're telling the truth than if you're doing it in a one-to-one interview with a camera there. You're going to be far more open when you're doing that sort of interview. Tommy is facing 4 years in prison. Peter, a father, a grandfather, a family man, as he's described, is now dead. He would not be dead if it wasn't for this prison sentence. Was he vulnerable? I don't know. And I don't know his backstory. But according to certain reports, he was vulnerable. Maybe like many people, he had mental health issues. Is it anyway? The way the country's going, everybody in the country will have mental health issues before long. But the reality is that man went to prison for shouting. Went to prison for making a sign. Went to prison for exercising his freedom of speech, his freedom of assembly, and his freedom to demonstrate. And Keir Starmer, you had men like him and hundreds of others locked up in the most brutal prisons with jihadist gangs, knowing full well that many of those men would be driven to the brink of suicide, and you do not care. And I want to put this in the context. I want to put this in context of the 26th of October. Now, we're doing an event on the 26th of October in central London. And it's about this. It's about two-tier everything. It's about two-tier Keir. Keir Starmer, the man who now has an innocent man's blood on his hands. Oh, you may say he was found guilty in the court of law. Maybe so. Violent disorder? There was nothing violent about that man. Shouting is not violence. According to the lefties, silence is violence. So even if you don't say anything, you can be taken to court now. This is the most disgusting thing to come out of these sentences over these riots. And I pray that this does not happen to anybody else or any other family. But I want to tell you something. Starmer needs to be called to account. He will go down in the annals of history as the most vile and disgusting Prime Minister this country has ever known. An evil man. An evil man. Keir Starmer, are you pleased with yourself? Are you happy about what you've done? Can you face the consequences? Can you sleep at night? Are you going to see Peter's face when you go to bed tonight? One of your citizens, one of your voters, sentenced to death. Because if you go into prison, you don't come out, it's a death sentence. We've got to take a stand. 26th of October, we're going to London. We're going to be peaceful. We will be peaceful. We will do our demonstrations without any violence. Anyone that goes there with intent of violence will be put out of the demonstration by our security team. But we're going there on the 26th. And we're going to make our voices heard. And you better listen, Keir Starmer. You better listen to the British people. Because you're in trouble. You're in trouble. Your party's in trouble. You'll be in trouble. The next election, you're going to get annihilated. You're going to get wiped out. There's not going to be anything left of the Labour Party. And I think most people would agree with me that this has got to be the worst government that they've ever lived under. And there were some pretty bad ones. This is the worst and the most corrupt and the most disgusting. I'd love to see Keir Starmer in prison. See you all soon.